Hello. I'm not going to make this one too long, but today is the 15th of August 2018, and it marks, today is exactly 20 years since the Omagh bomb, which was the worst single atrocity in terms of lives lost in the whole of the Northern Ireland Troubles. I was 12 at the time, and I didn't follow the news, but my godparents lived in Omagh, and I remember seeing the rubble in the street a few weeks afterwards. It was I wouldn't say a gruesome scene, but it was certainly poignant, and I remember that. In some ways, 20 years is a long time. In other ways, it's not so long. But this was the worst single act of the Troubles, a truly evil, despicable act that had absolutely no military value, no logistical value, absolutely pointless. And the particularly harrowing thing about Omagh is it came after the Good Friday Agreement. So this wasn't at the peak of the Troubles in the 70s or even the 80s. This was after the Good Friday Agreement. I mean, it would have been shocking at any time, but that makes it particularly cruel and particularly awful. Anyway, I don't want to talk in great detail about the investigation and all the ins and outs of the act itself. It's history. We know what happened. It was an act of pure evil, and there are people, who are living with that, who lost loved ones, who maybe suffered serious injuries. I can't imagine what that's like. But I came across a comment. I'm going to name and shame someone here. Dylan Foran. And this is what this guy writes. Up the IRA, IRA forever. And that's on a BBC Two news report about the attack. What do you say to that? So, of course, a number of people are challenging him, but this guy goes on to justify his comments. He's replying to someone else here. How am I the retarded one when you stupid Brits came into my country and tried to take it from us? I am obviously going to support the brave men and women and my family members who fought in the IRA to protect our country and freedom. The IRA fought at all costs to protect our yada yada. Dylan Foran, you're a piece of shit. Are you even human? Brave men and women. How the hell is blowing up children an act of bravery? You absolute degenerate. And you know something, it isn't even. I'm not going to dominate this video saying what I think of people like Dylan Foran. I think he's a worm. I think he's a piece of shit, and he's too much of a card to reply to the criticism. Unfortunately, two people like this comment. There are certain Irish nationalists still out there today, and I'm not talking about all Irish nationals here, but there's a hardcore of extremists who are so hate-filled and so degenerate that they cannot comprehend that murdering innocent civilians is wrong, whatever side of the debate you're on. Even many people who support United Ireland can see that what that was. In fact, one of the comments is a nationalist saying, well, this is the comment, I'm a Republican, but Omagh was disgusting, and I remember crying when I heard the news. I have Irish Republican friends who would probably support a United Ireland. And, it's not a conversation we would necessarily bring up, but they would recognize Omagh was evil. Anyone who not only attempts to justify a terrorist attack like this, but actually glorify it, I think they're the scum of the earth. I really do. And unfortunately, there are quite a number of them on cyberspace. I can't even begin to understand the mindset of such people. And yes, there was atrocities on both sides. I'm not saying the Unionists and the British were innocent. Not at all. But the fact of the matter is the IRA was guilty of some horrendous atrocities. They killed and maimed thousands of people. including those injured thousands. And they were a terrorist organization by every legal definition of the word. So when I see comments like that, I mean, obviously I'm not the only one, but and part of me thinks, okay, they're trolling, they're trying to get attention, but so I suppose you could say just ignore them. But I mean, if it, it makes me angry, it makes me uncomfortable. So I can only imagine if I was lucky, I never personally suffered in the Troubles, but I can imagine if I'd lost a loved one in the Omagh bombing and I saw a message like that, frankly, I'd want, I don't know what I would feel. I don't know. Part of me thinks I'd want to beat the living daylights out of the person, to be quite blunt about it. On the other hand, I'd almost feel sorry for them that they could be so degenerate in their thinking, they could be so, that they could sink that low. Someone like this, Dylan Foran, is not human. They don't have, well, of course they're human, but you know what I'm saying. That to sink that low, I think is a real. It takes a real degenerate, a real low life scumbag, and there's a lot of people like that out there, unfortunately. And it's the same with Islamist apologists and others who make excuses for blowing up men, women, and children who've done absolutely nothing. Let's be clear about this. Omagh wasn't a military target. And it's hard not to feel moved when you see the photos of those who lost their lives. And I suppose there's a school of thought that would say a video like this, where I'm just attacking those who sink so low, it's better to ignore them and it's better to focus on the victims. And I agree with that. We should, the victims should be the number one thought on a day like this. But it made the comment 5 months ago. But the fact is there are people out there, and I think they do need to be challenged. I think that sick, perverse, degenerate mindset, it makes me wonder what sort of people they really are. Because even most people who support United Ireland and don't like the British role in Northern Ireland, um, I mean, I'm not even going to get into the rights and wrongs of it, but I will say one thing. It does irritate me when people talk about British invaders, like ignoring the fact that the Unionist community in Northern Ireland has been there for hundreds of years. That's that's for an academic debate. That what I'm focusing on here is just humanity. I mean, what sort of person could write a comment like that? I've no doubt he's seeking attention. I don't know if he'll see this video or not. If he does, Dylan Foran, you're a piece of shit. You're not even human, and you're also a worthless card because you've got no content in your channel. You're not showing your face. You're a card. You're not a man. You're a card and a worm. A pitiful little worm. And I know you're not the only one. There's other worms out there just like you. You think you're noble being an Irish nationalist? I have been brave men and women over the years who may well be associated with Irish nationalism. You're not one of them. You're a worm. And not to go too far off on a tangent, but on a day like this, when you see Jeremy Corbyn, with the politics that he has, there's this controversy over him visiting a PLO memorial in Tunisia. And he's standing by his guns. He's refusing to apologize. He claims it was just um, the gravesite of victims of an Israeli airstrike, but that is honoring masterminds of the Munich massacre. And who were they? Athletes. Athletes brutally killed in front of the world. Jeremy Corbyn is not fit to be in number 10. And to think what he'd done in the 80s, cozying up to the IRA, and then claiming it was an act of diplomacy, nonsense. Jeremy Corbyn was not Foreign Secretary. He was not even a diplomat. He was a backbench MP who went there because he was ideologically sympathetic to United Ireland. And of course, he condemns terrorism. Anyone can condemn terrorism. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to specifics, Jeremy Corbyn will come out and say condemns all violence. That's a very weak answer. Anyone could say that. But, if we were talking about, let's say, unionist violence or far right violence, which is awful, it should be condemned, Corbyn would be very specific. But when it comes to far left violence, when it comes to Irish Republican violence, when it comes to Islamist violence, Corbyn, he'll condemn it, but he won't name it. And that's why I think this man can never be in number 10. To be ideologically sympathetic to a movement that killed and maimed thousands of British civilians, including those injured, yeah. Destroyed countless lives. I'll leave it there. Of course, the foremost thought should be with those who died on that day. And there's all the sentiments about reconciliation and so on. I think Northern Ireland has come a long way since then. But the fact is, there are still people like Dylan Foran out there who have their disgusting views and their degenerate, callous insults. I don't know. I'll never understand someone like that. I mean, to be that filled with hatred, that filled with vitriol, that they can actually insult victims of a terrorist attack. Also, this idiot fails to realize that many of the victims were actually Catholics. It was a group of, I believe they were Spanish school children. How does that fit into his equation? I'd love to confront him, but there's no form of communication on his channel. If he had that, I would absolutely be lambasting him with messages. Someone like this needs to be challenged. I've no doubt, though, he would never say it in public because Dylan Foran is a card. I really hope he sees this video and I hope it gets under his skin. Anyway, to hell with him. Right now, the only thing I'm thinking about is the victims of that atrocity. And actually, I don't mind admitting it, I've got just show you. Got two candles, one for those who died and one for those who are living with it. And they'll leave it there.